gentlemen, boys and girls, I have no idea. I've just been pleased to hear that television show Nafas Poetry Interview, half-hour-long show, was interviewing me, and it would be running in this next half hour. Actually, on all channels from public access television in Austin. For the Austin area, that's channel 10, channel 11, or channel 16, depending on your area. But usually that didn't actually happen, which I thought was like triple plus cool that it was on all of them. So anybody in the Austin area could be able to see them. For people who are outside of it, I thought, why not do a live feed of it and share it with you guys whenever it comes on, which isn't yet, apparently. But I was pleased and blessed to have the opportunity to go through and have somebody interviewing me and ask me questions where I read poetry from 7 different Scars Publications books, and I covered issues from women's issues. It dealt with a rape issue poem, an accident poem they even asked for because I was almost killed in a near-fatal auto accident. I did love interest pieces. I did something related to the periodic table of poetry because back from 2012 to 2015 I decided to write a poem for every element in the periodic table. So I shared one of those poems as well. I was thrilled to be able to do this, and I was double plus. As everybody knows, when I'm a host of an open mic, I'm double plus excited when they decided they want to be able to rebroadcast the show of an interview with me. And so, another added cool piece of news, which has nothing to do with the TV show, is that I am pleased that I was asked by a company, a publishing group in India, if they would publish a book of mine. So just within the past month or two, I've had a book, 137 pages, I think was the total for it. Yeah, I mean, like, it's huge. It has a lot of my older pieces as well as brand new pieces. Tried to keep it talking about everything from my oldest poem I ever wrote to one of the most recent ones I've ever written. Both of them are not on this television show, but it was an exciting thing to be able to share. And for people who look at YouTube podcasts, there will be clips of my readings from my most recent expedition at the poetry open mic that I host here in Austin, Texas. It's called Poetic License. And they will be coming up. There are 4 videos from that will be coming up in the next week or so. And either way, I just was pleased to be able to have this opportunity to be able to hear this poem, or this open mic, but I was told that this would be on. When I look at the schedule, it says that it's on. What time is it?
It's 4 after 7, but it's now saying Nico Sanchez of Superphonicos
well,
is live
that
with us
doesn't
tonight at
sound
7.
like it, even close.
So that's...
Let's try this one, which I don't think it is. That's not it. I'm looking at it. Ha! I'm
There
on
it
here.
is.
So I will shut up and turn up the volume and let you guys hear this TV show. I hope you guys all enjoy it, and
Well,
thank you all very much.
Likely that I'm not going to have everything memorized,
Right.
but when I get used to reading pieces and comfortable with them enough, they become so second nature to me that I could just rattle them
So
off
how
to
old
somebody.
is this poem?
This poem I wrote on Martin Luther King Jr. Day this year, January 20th, thereabouts, whatever it was for 2019. I could tell you if I wanted to look it up in the table of contents what day it was written, but I'm not going to. But it was in January 2019 when that one was
So it's obviously a political poem as well as a personal poem. The whole idea of houses and the distance, the house is both safe and also separate from this house and that house and that. So it's a distancing device, even as it brings you closer.
It was bringing in the notion of a place where people come together, or something where you keep all your treasured valuables, or a place that you don't feel safe. I've had to board it up and hide it away, or I put boards over it because of your storm.
Well, you were a rape...
acquaintance workshop facilitator.
Yeah.
And that's one of the lines I threw in there too, because I was just thinking, okay, you've done all of these horrific things to me, us, or a people. And yes, I worked for years as an acquaintance rape workshop facilitator, so a lot of my past poems would relate to women's issues, or sexism, or violence against women, or rape in general.
Trauma?
A lot of it from trauma from it. It was actually quite spooky and scary because people would know that was what I had done, and like, oh, by the way, hi, I know that you did this. Please let me share with you my story of how I was raped when I was 16, or which is an additional burden beyond what, you know, if something had happened like that to me or not. You're just then taking in a bunch of people's stories and you don't know what to do with that. And
So the poetry is a way of dealing with other people's traumas as well as your own.
Exactly.
Underneath.
I know that you don't know what poems I would like to read, but it's really kind of funny that the next poem I wanted to share was about dealing with the rape issue. It's really funny that just happened to stumble into that one. This is a poem from the first book I had ever published through Scars Publications called Hope Chests in the Attic, and the poem is called The Burning. I take the final swig of vodka, feel it burn its way down my throat, hiss at it scorching my tongue, then reach for that bottle to pour myself another. I think of how my tonsils scream every time I let the alcohol rape me. And then I look down at my hands, shaking, holding that glass of poison, and think of how these were the hands that should have pushed you away from me, but didn't. And I keep wondering why I took your hell, I took your poison. I remember how you burned your way through me. You corrupted me from the inside out, and I kept coming back. I let you infect me, and now you burn a hole right through me. I hated it. And now I have to rid myself of you, and my escape is flowing between the ice cubes and the glass nestled in my palm. But I have to drink more. The burning doesn't last as long as you do.
So you've not done plays?
No, although the funny thing is I wrote one short story years ago called Crazy. And it's just a monologue about a person that's in a psych ward after violent acts, and I did that as I'm a Chicagoan, and before I took over and opened mic, they had said, oh, sometimes a feature doesn't show up if you want a last minute thing, and I stumble in, and I play out this role, and I read this short story as a feature, and they were like, this is the best feature I've ever heard from you ever. And I actually also did it once here, and people were stunned and thrilled with it. But I haven't written long plays. No, I haven't. I guess I am an actor by definition of how I will portray roles by my readings and the like, but I have not gone into producing plays or anything of the nature.
Why?
I think I appreciate the idea of a shortness with a statement in a poem instead of coming up with really long pieces.
So that's why poetry as opposed to plays.
I think so. I wrote a novel once. I'd written 3 chapters, and then I was almost killed in an auto accident, and I had to put my life back together, which meant that was on hold. You know, I'm going to forget that novel, and after a while I'm like, I should get back to it. And it's an epic. It's like 600 pages. It's way too long and obnoxious, but I did try it, so.
Yeah, my next question was going to be, because I know you were in an accident, and the whole idea of whether an accident or rape, which is another kind of accident.
Different kinds of traumas, yeah.
Different kind of also a different kind of accident,
Yeah.
because it happens to you. And to a certain extent, you're the driver of the car, as it were. You're also the body that gets hit by another body in a violent act.
In every accident, there are 3 crashes.
Yes.
The car into the car, your body organs into the skin, and then you hitting the. It's really kind of frightening to learn those things when after you go through this. Oh, never. It's jostling how much you can learn while trying to keep yourself sane and wrap your head around everything that's happened to you.
So here, we have an accident poem? I know I'm messing up your order, but...
No, you're not messing up my order. I wanted to not have something that would be that horrific included in my collection, but I will tell you that the next book, the poem I was going to read, was a poem that doesn't relate to the accident, but I wrote it days before the accident. When I say this to people...
Prescient.
When I say this to people, and in fact, when I was unconscious in the hospital, this is about a relationship. somebody left an open journal, and they said, please write a message, because she's in a coma. And so he's like, hey, you just wrote a poem called Fantastic Car Crash. This is supposed to be me in the hospital, not you, which it was just spooky, but it doesn't relate to it, but in a bizarre way it does. So this poem is from a collection of interviews, and if you want to know all sorts of weird things about me, you can get this little book called In Depth, and this is in it, and it's called Fantastic Car Crash. And our life is one big road trip now, when we set the cruise control and make our way down the expressway. And most of the time when we're driving, we're in a straight line. The scenery blurs. There's nothing to see. But I know what's inside of you, and I know what you're made of. There's no such thing as a calm with you. Everything shatters with you, you know. It's a spectacular explosion. I try to duck and cover as metal flies through the air. And every time you leave the scene of the accident, I'm left picking up the shards of glass from the broken windows. You know, the glass breaks into such tiny little pieces. They look like ice. It takes so long to pick up the pieces, and even though I'm careful, I'm still picking up the pieces, and I'm still on my knees, and the glass cuts into my hands, and the blood drips down into the streets. Think of it as my contribution to this fantastic car crash that is you, that is me, that is us, as I pull the glass from my hands and wave my hand to the line of traffic. Go on. Keep driving. This happens all the time. There's nothing to see here.
Happens all the time. So when did poetry happen to you?
First poem I ever wrote, I was 9 for a class. And it's one of the few that I will admit to that rhymes.
Yes.
And it was fun, and I tried to continue writing in high school and tried to rhyme more, but I found that by doing that I was not able to get a message across because I was working too hard on trying to come up with a rhyme to match lines. And then when I would go off in college and then off on my own, I'd let that be a sounding board, in a matter of speaking, for going through the travails of life and whatever new experiences you have. So it's always been there, yeah.
Well, a 9-year-old, I wouldn't imagine, would have issues with crashing into you, as it were. But poetry at some point became a way for you to deal with those travails.
This is true, exactly. I think that is the case for most writers, and probably and particularly poets, because a lot of times people have issues and problems with one thing or another, and you're just told to sweep it under the rug, bottle it up, and don't let it out, and you'll be fine if you just shut up and not think about things and not allow yourself to fully live. And when you have to do that, sometimes the only way you can get it out of your system or be able to cognitively appropriately process everything is by writing it down. I don't have any poems to share about the passing of my mother, but I was alone with my father for weeks right after she died, and he was having it worse than me. I'm sure. So I couldn't say anything to him. So what did I do? I typed like mad, because what else could I do? You know, that was all I could think of. So that was all I could think of.
So the world is complacent in many ways. It's also very confrontational in many ways. And the personal and the political, I don't feel any overt political philosophy in your work, although feminism obviously is, some people consider that.
This is true, very true. And I was just thinking that the next poem that I have on my list of reading is a politically argumentative piece about a philosophy.
It's almost like we planned it,
We
isn't
totally
it?
did not plan that. But I have so many books that I wanted to share to get a breath of all of the things that I've done, and it just happens, if that is cool with you. This is a book called Close Cover Before Striking. You know, it could be a matchbook, or it could just be emotionally having to cope with things. This is excerpts of a longer poem called Everything Was Alive and Dying. I had a dream the other night. I walked out of a city to a forest, and there were neatly paved bicycle paths and trash cans every 50 feet, and trash every 10. And as I walked, there was a stray cat. She still had a little neon collar on with a little bell. As she walked a few feet, stretched her front paws. Oh, she looked so darling. And then in my dream, she walked right up to me and she said, "Thank you." And I said, "For what?" And she just looked at me for a moment. Her little ears were standing straight up. And she said, "In some countries, I'm considered a delicacy." And I said, "How do you know of these things?" And she said, "When somebody eats one of you, word gets around." And then she just looked at me for a moment, and she said, "And in some countries, the cow is sacred. Wouldn't I love to see how you humans prepare them for slaughter, how you hang them upside down and slit their throats so they're still beating hearts will drain out all the blood for you." She said, "Isn't it funny how arbitrary your decision to eat meat is?" And I said, "Don't put me in that category. I don't eat meat." And she said, "I know." And then I woke up in a sweat. So tell me, Ted, Canadian, Cuban, Cruz. So tell me, Nancy, my eyes are pried open, Pelosi. So tell me, Mitch, the slowest turtle, McConnell. So tell me, Lion Hillary Clinton. So tell me, Entertainer-in-Chief Donald Trump. So tell me, Barack Hussein Obama. If you woke up from that dream, would you be in a sweat too? Because everything is linked here. We destroy our animals so we can be wasteful and violent. We destroy our planet. We destroy our earth. We even destroy our air. We wreak havoc on the soil, on the atmosphere. We dump our wastes into our lakes. We pump aerosol cans and exhaust fumes. And you think I'm extreme? And I'm just beginning to think that we just keep doing it because we don't know how to stop. And deep inside, we feel the pain of all that we've killed, and we try to control it by popping a chemical-filled painkiller. And then we live through the guilt by taking caffeine, nicotine, morphine, and we keep ourselves thin with saccharin, and we keep ourselves sane with our alcohol poisoning. But the thing is, in the wild, you have no power over anyone else. Now that we're civilized, we create our own wild. And maybe when we have all this power, the only choice we have is to destroy ourselves. And so we do. I feel like I should have a mic to drop after I say
Yes,
the strength on that one.
Indeed. Do you ever do videos?
I do videos of readings when I go to places, and when I was in Chicago and I ran a poetry open mic, I taped the entire thing, as well as features, and I had a podcast for it as well. I asked my husband, the amazing computer guru geek, I said, "Do you have any way of knowing, I put up a poetry podcast every week, does anybody actually look at it?" And I said, "Can you figure that?" And he's like, "All right, let me look into this." And he's like, "Well, once I get rid of spammers, I would say one is downloaded every 90 minutes. I mean, like 24/7, every hour and a half." I'm like, "Really? I mean, like that many people are actually downloading this?" So it was a cool thing to do for that. I've only done one poem video for one of my poems, which I'm not going to read for you here, but I usually am just busy being on stage when running the open mic in Chicago, or I have an open mic here on the first Sundays every month at Recycled Reads called Poetic License, because, you know, sometimes you need to get your poetic license, so come on over.
Right. Well, as I like to, whether or not somebody, we all want to have our poetry read, but I like to say, like I say about Nazis, I don't fight Nazis because I think I might win. I fight Nazis because they're Nazis. So you write poetry because you write poetry.
Because I write poetry.
Let's hear another one.
Oh, okay, then why don't I pull out from this poetry collection book, this one's a nice sweet one. It's called Partial Nudity. No, I am clothed in this. It just looks impressively funny that I'm not, but this is a collection book called Partial Nudity, and this poem is called Us Actually Touching. I heard a physicist explain that when two solid objects are pressed together, they never actually touch. And I can't imagine it, but maybe because electrons repel, all objects remain one molecule apart. I wonder if this is a why. When I see you and when we embrace, I want to hold you tighter and tighter. Because I want to defy the laws of gravity and feel that connection to you as long as I possibly can. Because this might be why, whenever we embrace, I want my face at your neck so that I can inhale you deeply and I can breathe you in. Because I want to experience you with all of my senses. I want our molecules to intermingle. I want us to actually touch.
So
it's not all angry and violent.
well, yeah, I mean, now we're getting into quantum physics, and you mentioned dreams earlier, so, yeah, the idea that there's no there. So I heard you earlier say that there's a science book that you have.
I was looking for a challenge when I was writing, and apparently this year it was for writing a poem a day, which is a fun challenge. A few years back, I'm like, I'd like to find something to tackle. And I thought, why don't I go the science route and try to write a poem, which I did, for every element of the periodic table. And it was so fun. So for a year, every feature I did in Chicago was all periodic table poems. And yeah, I kept on that science route, I guess, with that. But that was a fun thing to do.
Again.
You're seeing it in my hand. You're seeing the periodic table of poetry. I originally started my schooling in computer science engineering. And I said, I loved math. You're like, what? You're kidding me. And I ended up switching over to go into writing, into news editorial journalism, where I focus on design, which is why I'm designing books now. But there was a bonus poem in here for number 99, which is Einsteinium. So
okay.
But the bonus poem, the bonus poem is Beauty in the Eyes of Einstein. I heard NASA scientists say that Einstein dismissed some of his theories, even some theories we may know all too well. But Einstein didn't like some of his theories because he thought they weren't beautiful. And I thought, what is beauty? Is it the geomagnetic aberrations of the aurora borealis dancing along the horizon in the Arctic Circle? Is it the way you look at me with those gorgeous doe eyes when we've been apart so long? Is it the scattered collisions from Comet Shoemaker leaving 9 into the planet Jupiter? Is it what I feel when your arms are finally around me and I don't want to open my eyes and I never want to let go? Is it the eternally changing wisps of volcanic trails in the Saturn, Moon, Titan's atmosphere? Is it the way that listening to the music you make fills me with such energy? Is it the converting matter into pure energy with just the right formula? Scientists believed the most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all art and science. So, am I driven to look up at the stars in the night sky, to see stars from billions of years ago, to fall in love every night? Einstein reminds us, we are all ruled in what we do by impulse. So, is it how on impulse I move a bit closer to you so I can feel the heat from your body so close to mine? We ask, what is beauty? They say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So it makes me wonder.
So I listened to something the other day about the hot-cold empathy gap. So our cold logic can make decisions about what we will do in a certain situation. Our hot body in that actual situation often makes very different decisions regarding that. So how many personalities do you write from?
Wow. people would make jokes that I'm born in June, and they say, you're a Gemini. And I'm like, no, I'm not a Gemini. I'm a Cancer, but I'm right in the cusp. So I might have a couple different stories inside of me. And it is very easy when you go through so many different things in life to take on different personas. If you're working, or if you're in a relationship, or being a parent, or being the child, or a family member, or hanging out with your best friends, whatnot. You always have different roles. So it's easy to find different ones to slip into for whatever mood suits for the piece.
Well, let's hear one more before we go.
One more. I'm thinking a long one, short one. No, I should give you my happy short one for the evening.
Yes.
Sure. This is from the book Contents Under Pressure, and it is called And I'm Wondering. I'm wondering if there's something chemical that brings people together, something that brings people to their knees, something that sucks them in. And I'm wondering if you're sensing what I'm sensing. Is it just me? Am I making it all up in my head? Or when I glance up and I catch your eyes, well, are you actually staring at me? And I'm wondering if we could work out this time, if we'd have one of those relationships that no one ever doubts, because we know we'll always be in love. And I'm wondering if you'd find my neurotic pet peeves charming, like how I hate it when somebody touches my belly because I'm so self-conscious. And I'm wondering why you had to tell me when we happened to be sitting next to each other that the fact that our legs were almost touching was making your heart race. And I'm wondering why I felt the need to take your cigarette and inhale, exhale, while the filter was still warm from your lips there just seconds before. And I'm wondering if a year or two from now, after we've been going out and shouldn't gotten to that point where we're bored with each other and sunk into that comfortable rut, well, if you saw me making macaroni and cheese in the kitchen using margarine and water because I don't have any milk, and I've got my hair pulled back and strands are falling into my face, and I'm wearing one of those button-down denim shirts and nothing else, well, what I'm wondering is if you would see me like this and still think I was sexy. When I glance up and I catch your eyes from across the room, when I see your eyes dart away, when I feel this chemical reaction, well, what I'm wondering is, do you feel it too?
So, Janet Kuypers, where can we find you on the interweb?
On the interwebs, Janet Kuypers, Kuypers. You can just search for me on Amazon. You will find all of these books because I run 2 literary magazines and there are books coming out all the time. Find my name online, or what I run with Scars Publications, which is Scars, SCARS.TV. And you can find everything out about all those things, including my writing.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. You've been watching Texas Nafas with Janet Kuypers. I'm Rick Williams. Your guest host behind the camera is Fareed Mohammadi. You can catch this action on channel 16 or 10 at the first day of the month on about 9:30. If you don't know how to get there, go to texasnafas.org or call Access TV in Austin. Thanks. See ya.
This project is funded and supported in part by the City of Austin through the Economic Development Department, Cultural Arts Division, believing an investment in the arts is an investment in Austin's future. Visit Austin at nowbeingaustin.com.
Is the cool thing about having access to online stuff for, hey, I looked on, I'm like, wait, I'm on actually every public access, and it's different from different areas of Austin, or different service providers would allow it on different channels. If you guys caught this at the beginning, I was checking it out on channel 16 because I thought that that was the channel it was going to be on, but it was actually on, I believe, 10 or 11. But the thing is, it's on different choices for different opportunities for everyone. I hope everyone enjoyed that. It was so, and the funny thing is, nobody could see it. I'm standing behind the camera going, and mouthing all of the words along. And that last poem, and that when I've got my hair pulled back behind it, and the strands are falling into my eyes, and I'm wearing a button-down denim shirt. I'm reciting half of these poems along with, as I am listening to this show at the same time. There's a fun element in these things. I hope you guys thought they were fun too. just try to be able to share poetry with you guys in any way, shape, or form. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I have no idea. Oh, Law and Order? What? I must have hit something. Well, that's what this button is for, because that's what I think of Law and Order. Thank you very much. I don't believe in Law and Order. No, anyway, I hope everyone is staying creatively inclined, poetically inclined, and we just had our Moderna shot. This is the first one on Saturday, and the end is coming. Although the thing is, how many people are going to get it, and when are we going to be able? Well, we'll still be wearing a mask. We'll still be covered. We'll still be nervous, and we'll still be cautious, and we'll still be safe, because that is proper. Of course. I hope everyone remains safe. I hope everyone remains poetically inclined, and know that we'll all make it through this all. Thank you all so very much for listening. And I should actually say hi to the Facebook watchers who were watching live at the time. And hang in there, and I will talk to each and one of you very, very soon. Thank you very, very much.